welcome back to my channel. I'm the City Witch. So today's video is on the subject of books I recommend for voodoo and hoodoo magic. Now, I have 3 books in my collection, and I know you're thinking, wow, that's not a lot. And it's really not, guys. But I've got to be honest, I am very, very choosy with my books, and when it comes to hoodoo or voodoo books, I've read so many of them that I didn't really like, that I ended up, as soon as I finished with them, gifting them away or passing them on to other practitioners. So these are the only 3 that made it into my collection that I did enjoy, and one of them isn't even that big, if I'm honest. But I just wanted to give you some examples of the books out there, and if you haven't already read them, they are worth a read, and they do contain an awful lot of information, so it's worth checking them out, if I'm honest. So, as always, I will score the books from 1 to 10. I will give you an example of the content, and I'll tell you what I personally felt and what I thought about the book as I read it. So the first one I'm going to talk to you about is the Voodoo Handbook of Cult Secrets, and it's by Anna River, and it's a really old book and it was quite expensive to get, if I'm honest, but it looks like this. I know you're thinking it's not really a book, it's a pamphlet, but it's not. It is a book. It's got a proper, 908 number and everything. So this is one of the first books that I ever had on voodoo magic, and actually it doesn't really talk to you an awful lot about magic in the book. What it does is it gives you lots of information in order to go away and use that information in your own ritual practices. Subjects it covers include black magic, serpent worship, ceremonial rites, spells, oguna bags, possession, unhexing and white magic, how to use herbs, roots, oils, powders, stones and much more. So it does cover a lot in this, and just to read you the content, it says there's a foreword and then Loha, voodoo gods and deities, dictionary of words and terms, and voodoo songs and chants. And then throughout the book you get images like this from the voodoo hoodoo culture. So there's a lot of information in here. Now, I don't claim to be an expert on any of this, guys. It's still something after all this time that I'm researching and trying to understand. There's lots of different areas of the world that voodoo and hoodoo has come from and developed from, and everybody has a completely different opinion, and every video I watch talks about it in a different way, so it can get quite confusing. And being honest, I'm a British UK practitioner, and it's so vast and so interesting, this subject, and there's lots of different information on it that I'm still wrapping my brain around it. I do incorporate elements of it into my craft, but I say I don't claim to be an expert. So everything that you hear in this video, take with a pinch of salt. Go out and do your own research, and obviously these books, I'm recommending them because I thoroughly enjoyed them and I thought the information was fantastic contained within, and it's stuff I've been able to incorporate in my craft. So as I say, so this one talks to you about the Loha. So Loha is a voodoo god or deity, and there's quite a few of them. It doesn't give you any information to how they're all connected to each other. There are some books I'm going to show you here that do talk to you about how some of them are actually considered husband and wife and how they're all connected, what they rule over and take care of. This just literally gives you the name and then moves on to tell you a bit about it. So Brigitte. So it said Baron Sandy's wife, she has authority over ceremonial rites when the corpse is a female. So again, just basic information, the name and how it was spelt, and that's pretty much it. And then you're expected to go off and do the research yourself. Dictionary of words and terms, this is where it talks to you things like anointing oil, talks to you about amulets and talismans, all the different terms used inside voodoo culture, so things like gree-gree, and it'll break that down for you. Just give you some examples of some chants, some rituals, but nothing major throughout the book. And then when you're kind of done going through this, towards the back, gives you some examples of some symbolism, some vevés. Vevé is a symbol used to represent a Loha and their energies, so it's how you summon or call upon them. So there's some songs and chants as well. There's one dedicated to Papa Legba. There's one for Ibo, I think I'm saying that right. Apologies if I'm not, guys. Yeah, so there's some interesting stuff, and again, you get some doodles like that in the book. So overall, considering what I spent for this, there are better books out there, which I discovered much later on. Probably too late, because I got this book a long time ago. I think I've had this for about 12 years, something like that. So quite a long time, and it's part of a collection that I have of really old books on this kind of subject, and as I had the first 2 and came across this, and this was in mint condition, I decided to get it. Now this did cost me about 20 quid, and for what's inside it, it's really not worth it if I'm honest. It doesn't give you nearly one half of what these other books have. I did enjoy it, and as it was my first kind of book on the subject, it gave me a kind of sneak peek into that world, and it gave me a full list of all the deities, and it did give me some interesting chants and songs to work with. So it's not a complete waste, but it wasn't amazing either. So for that reason, I'm only going to score it about a 4 out of 10. So if you are interested in getting something like this, and you really like occult magic, and you know what collection this is part of, and as I say, it is part of quite a big collection, and they're hard to get hold of, then you'll appreciate this for what it is. So yeah, quite a low score from me for that one, guys. So the next book I'm going to talk to you about is called Voodoo Hoodoo Spellbook, and again it's by Denise Alvarado and Dakota Snake, I think. I don't know, but there you go. So it kind of looks like that, and this book, I've got to say, was quite interesting. I found this much more interesting than the Voodoo Spellbook, if I'm honest. This one gave a full kind of history in the book of Voodoo Hoodoo practices, the differences and the pantheons and the saints, and it went into so much detail that I found it really fascinating. So to give you an idea of the content, as I say, you have a foreword, a disclaimer, a legal notice, and an introduction. Chapter 1 is the basics, Chapter 2 is Voodoo Pantheon, Chapter 3 the Saints, Chapter 4 Prayers, Novas and Palms, Chapter 5 Preparation of Tools and Medicas and Curios, Chapter 6 Candle Magic, Chapter 7 Conjure, Spirit and Anointing Oils, Chapter 8 Magical Voodoo Inks, Chapter 9 Floor Washes, Chapter 10 Spiritual Waters and Colognes, Chapter 11, Spiritual Baths, Chapter 12, the New Orleans Gree-Gree, Chapter 13, the Sachet Powders, Chapter 14, Talismans, and Chapter 15, Spells. And then there's some final notes from the author, some references and biographies, resources and supplies, and then an index. So there is a lot of information in this book, and there is some stuff in it which I have used, I have found fascinating and interesting. But there's also a lot of information in this I probably wouldn't use in the same tone, to be honest, guys. So it's probably a half and half book for me. Some of the washes, the mixes, and the oil concoctions I have used and made. I made my 4-piece vinegar from this and the recipe in this. I did later find a better recipe that I preferred, to be honest, in a different book. But I did make the one from this, it did work, and I did value the content in this book quite a bit. So it does say on the back, authentic voodoo magic from New Orleans voodoo traditions. So, I don't know. I don't know how true that is. But I've got to say, from what I read in it and what I've read previously, I wouldn't really say that the information was incorrect. Didn't really spot or have anything stand out to me that I thought was wrong. I did feel like the research was legitimate and that it had been done well this time around, because as I say, the other one I just felt was like a collection of spells just gathered and shoved in a random book. But this one I did feel like this was a lot more her own work, her own information, and I did feel like this was a better laid out book than the other one overall. So for that reason, I would probably score this probably about an 8 out of 10, so a pretty decent score, guys, because the information is really good, and as you see, it does talk a lot about embellishments and working with dolls as well as the other ones. This is kind of a more complete book. So if you're after a book that talks about voodoo dolls and of course voodoo hoodoo spells, then this is a good book to get as far as I'm concerned. Like I said, I did enjoy it, and I would score it fairly high. So the next book is my favourite in my collection. I read this in the space of a week. I couldn't put it down. I thought it was brilliant. I ended up, well, as you can see, I bookmarked a lot of things in it. So this was definitely a thoroughly interesting book. And it's called Sticks and Stones, Roots and Bones, and it's by Stephanie Rose Bird. And it says Hoodoo, Mojo and Conjuring with Herbs. And it looks like that. So I loved this book, guys. I thought it was absolutely phenomenal. Had lots of really interesting information in it. She is a New Orleans practitioner as well, so a lady of colour. And I do really enjoy the information in this book. The way she writes it is really inspiring. She gave lots of tips and tricks throughout the book. And I really liked all the herbs and roots. She even talked to you about where to get them from, what they should look like, so you're not ripped off or lied to or conned by somebody out there. She also gives you places that she would recommend getting them from, so websites and things as well. So that was really handy. So in the content, she gives you an introduction, so a word about the nature of sticks and stones, roots and bones. Chapter 1 is fixing to work with roots, so time and space, equipment and tools, gathering and drying, storage, extraction techniques, and a note about animisms. I think I'm saying that right. And then chapter 2, it's in the bag, so African concepts and nation sacks. And then chapter 3, the broom in Hoodoo, so brooms in Africa, brooms and African Americans. And then Chinese washes, and then broom rituals, so working with your broom. And I do work with my broom quite a lot, so that again was really interesting. Chapter 4, cleaning rituals and spirit washes. So this is where she talks to you about all the different soaps and powders and sweet waters, fragrances, and the washes you can use on your floors and your cupboards and your surfaces for cleansing ritual work. So that was really interesting. Chapter 5, harvesting the gifts of fire. So candle, magic and colours, conjuring altars, fire, water, earth and family. She talks about disposal, candle wax, and she talks to you about dripping candles and anointing them. So she gives you a lot of information there as well. Chapter 6, the element of war. So power of the universe, Ogun, Orisha of the warriors, Oyaya, Orisha of the wind, Shango the alchemist, foot trap magic, war water bottles, graveyard dirt, Elegba and the crossroads. And then 7, keeping the peace, so waters of peace, dirt and minerals that can be used for that. Chapter 8, prosperity, so this was all about working with horseshoes and nails and lucky hand washes and money jars, charms, amulets from Egypt are included as well. So not just hoodoo, voodoo magic, she incorporates a little bit of other cultures as well, which was fascinating. And then chapter 9, getting some love and keeping it close, so making and maintaining a love mojo. History and traditions of hoodoo love magic, aromatherapy, pomandas, sun kisses, roses, so there's all sorts of information. Chapter 10, fertility, so goddesses of fertility and how to work with them. Chapter 11, sacred rites of commitment, so the language of flowers, more floral ideas. The Book of Days, after the ceremony, reception and honey moon, and the way she spent honey as in like honey the syrup. 12, hoodoo child, so pregnancy, childbirth, blessing a man and a woman with a child, bringing about fertility and, sexual energies, so that was really interesting as well. Chapter 13, the conjurer dream, so protective amulets, divination, prophetic dream work, spirits who ride, the dreamer's charm. And then chapter 14, passing on, so traditional burial customs, hoodoo for termination and rituals and ceremonies, and then she gives you a lot of appendices as well to work with. So there's some really good stuff in this, guys. I really enjoyed it. This was my all-time favourite book I've read on the subject of any hoodoo and voodoo magic. I love that she incorporated lots of other cultures as well, so it wasn't just limited to one thing. She had a lot of different ideas in this, so I would definitely say this is 10 out of 10 from me. This is top of my list, guys. As I say, I read it a week, couldn't put it down, and I did buy a lot of the roots and herbs on her recommendation and used a lot of recipes. I made them all in the same week I was reading them, and I use them now. I think this is a brilliant book, guys, so I do recommend that one. And that's all I've got for you. So nice and simple, just 3 little books to advise you on that made it to my particular collection. And as I say, I have read a lot more on the subject than what is here, but as I didn't enjoy those other books, I just gifted them away, so I can't show you them as an example. So if you have any other books out there that you recommend, then put a screenshot in the comments below, guys. I'd love to see what you've read and what you've enjoyed and why. So yeah, definitely, let me know. That would be interesting. If you enjoyed the video, give me that thumbs up, and don't forget to click that bell button so you know when my next video comes out. Thank you very much for supporting my channel. I do appreciate it, guys. Every time that you click that like button, it tells me that you really enjoyed my videos, and I do appreciate it, honestly. All of the information for this video is in the description. All the links for my other channels and pages are in there as well. So Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Patreon, and if you'd like to support my channel through Patreon, that would be lovely. And again, all the information for that is there, guys. If you'd like to book me for any spells, rituals or services, then you can do this through Facebook, Instagram or through Patreon. It's your choice, but if you do it through Patreon, it is much cheaper than doing it through my other various different business pages, guys. So I definitely recommend doing it on that if you can. So thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed it, and as always, be good to each other, and I'll speak to you very soon. Blessed be, guys.